Hi kawan, welcome to EDCReady. Today we are going to continue our series about locks and how do they work. So here I have the Spyderco Para3 Lightweight and I want to talk about the compression lock. Now the compression lock is a proprietary lock coming out of Spyderco. I'm not sure if their patent has expired because last I checked it was supposed to expire on in April of 2021. So will it go down the path of the of the Benchmade Axis lock, where now other companies like Ganzo and Hogue can use it? We don't know yet. So far from what I know, no other company can recreate the compression lock. But now let's talk about the compression lock and what it is and how it functions. So how it works, some people call this a reverse liner lock. I do not see it functioning like a reverse liner lock. It's more like a shark lock mixed with an axis lock type situation, but I'm going to explain it to you here. It has three components. It has this little spring steel here, which makes up the liner here at the top. It has a lock pin, and then at the bottom of the blade here, at the tang of the blade here, you see a little gap, and you see the flat gap here, the flat face here, and then the face here that is angled. And how it works is that as this thing rotates around, okay, you're going to see two things happening. You're going to see the lock pin hit this, stop pin hit this lock face, and then the actual steel here will go into this little gap right there, okay, just like that. Yeah, see that? That's how it works. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart and show you guys how it looks like on the inside. Alright, so now you guys are looking at the guts of a compression lock, and I've zoomed in a little bit to show you guys a better, to give you guys a better idea how it looks on the inside. Now there are two things you need to imagine. Number one is you need to imagine this pivot is inside this hole, and you need to imagine that this stop pin is in that hole right there. So pretty much this is how it works. We have a little detent ball on this liner up here. That is a piece of bent metal with a little bit of spring to it, and then that goes into the detent hole right here. You can even see the detent path. So it goes on to that, and then that creates the detent. Once you flick it out, okay, everything will rotate, and then what's going to happen is that that little stop pin that's going to be here is going to make contact with this flat face right here, and then this here, I will press it up, and then this goes into this little ridge right here. Now what this does is that this is actually angled, just like that. Yeah, this is actually angled. So how it works is that that little piece of spring steel is going in that direction, causing it to push down. So this little steel piece right here is causing it to push down and causing it to rotate, and then that is hit up against the stop pin that's stopping it from rotation. So you get a very nice secure lockup. So now I'm going to put it back together and talk to you guys about the pros and the cons of the compression lock. Alright, so let's start with the good aspects of the compression lock. First of which, you can kind of see here, it has good one-hand functionality. There are a couple of locks out there that kind of need two hands to open and close it. Some series like rear and back locks have that kind of problem. I believe the Civivi had that problem as well. Civivi Rustic Gen that I had before. Because it had a back lock at the back, the safest way to close it was to press it and then close it with two hands. If not, I've cut myself many times with that knife. Slip joints also need two hands to open and close it, but for this guy, as long as you have good enough motor function, you can use it with two hands. The next great thing about this lock system is the fidget factor. You can open it with the thumb, with the reverse flick. You can pinch the compression lock and flick it out that way. Just very fun knife to use. And to be honest, fidget factor has become a bigger factor in my knife collection, which is why I really enjoy collecting based on lock or knife locks, because there's a mechanical beauty to these kind of lock designs, such as the compression lock. Next up is that action. The great thing about compression locks is that with liner locks or frame locks, what you tend to get is you're not going to get that drop shut action. And the reason for that is because of this liner. This liner goes in and presses the blade in that direction. Okay, once you disengage the lock and you try to close it, you're going to get the pressure of that liner lock onto the side of the blade. So it's not really going to fall shut just as easily. It takes a very expensive knife or a very cheap Ganzo to achieve that with a liner lock or a frame lock. But with a compression lock, once you pinch this, it's going to drop. Pivot's a little tight, which is why it doesn't just doesn't drop shut like it should. But you can see here, it just, with a bit of a wiggle, it can definitely just fall like that. So that's very nice. Next up, the compression lock is 90% ambidextrous. Now you have like Gonzo's G-lock or Benchmade Axis lock, same thing, where once you flip the clip around, it is a completely symmetrical knife. Your experience as a right-handed user will be the same as your experience as a left-handed user. Now, back locks have that same feature because again, it's a symmetrical lock mechanism. As long as you have a way to open the knife on both sides, you can flip the clip around. It's going to be extremely ambidextrous. Whereas frame locks and liner locks, you are definitely going to have a different experience when you're using your right hand versus your left hand. So that's great. The only difference is instead of having to pinch it with your index finger like that, okay, when you reverse it, you are pinching it with your thumb, just like that. And just in my experience, I get a little bit better grip on the knife when I can purchase it like that compared to when I close it like that. But that's why I say it's 90% ambidextrous. Next up, another thing I love about the compression lock is that to disengage the lock, your fingers can be out of the path of the blade or the motion of the blade. So you just press this and your fingers just naturally land on the side here. So when you press this, the tendency for you to have your fingers in the blade path once it's closing is quite far beyond the reach of normal person unless you have super long fingers. Whereas with this guy, to disengage it, you have to have the blade come down towards your finger. To be honest, it's not that big of a deal once you started getting used to it, but for a lot of knife newbies, they can cut themselves on the way down. I've cut myself on pretty much every knife that I had. The first 6 or 7 knives I had, I've cut myself on every one of those knives. Next up, it's a very strong lock. And it's strong for 2 reasons. Number one, it has 2 points of failure. It has the stop pin itself, and then it has the compression spring bar itself, the liner itself. So because of those contact points, it becomes a very strong lock. And the second thing is that it's contacting metal. So this metal is contacting metal, this metal is contacting metal. And metal, the only way to get this to fail is that you got to compress those pieces of metal or break it off its hinges. And those things together make it a very strong lock. It's not going to be as strong as, let's say, a back lock are extremely strong. Let's see now, Andrew Demko knives, the Triad lock, those are extremely strong. It is not going to be that strong, but it is definitely strong enough for pretty much anyone who needs a pocket knife. You don't really need strength much more than what you get here in a compression lock. So it's a good trade-off. You get all those extra fidget factor, one-hand use, ambidextrousness, safe to use, great action, and then a knife strength a locking strength that works for 99.9% of knife users out there. Now let's talk about the cons to this knife, of which there are not many. The first of which is that it is a Spyderco pattern, which means only Spyderco can make these locks. And the problem with that is that you don't have competition. Okay, compared to, let's say, a Benchmade, let's say this here, a Benchmade bug out, their axis lock has improved over time because now other companies can start using the same technology. They just can't call it an axis lock, but that competition makes their axis lock better. Mind you, the springs here are broken, so they still have a long way to go. Next up, compared to, let's say, a liner lock, where the locking parts and the locking mechanism is at the bottom of the knife, this means that you can have the entire knife inside of the handle, just like you have with this guy, just like you have with this guy. This is the ZTO 450CF with a frame lock, where you can have most of the knife in the handle. The compression lock, as with the axis lock, is that most of the mechanisms for the locking part of this knife is at the top of the knife. Okay, in this case you have the liner here, you have all the locking mechanisms up here, and as a result of that, most of this knife, once it's closed, doesn't actually sit inside of the handle. As you can see, the knife actually goes up all the way up to here, and once it closes, it only closes up to here. That means the rest of this knife is actually holding up air. So it's not a very space efficient lock mechanism. Now, there are other forms of compression locks which don't have this kind of hump, where like the, let's see now, the Sage 5 Lightweight, which I really like, only goes up to about here. Now, I do not know, because Spyderco has never done it, if you just have this as a straight edge at the top right here and then have a thumb stud, I do not know if that is going to work or not, like from an ergonomic standpoint and a functionality standpoint, but I would love to see that someday. Now, the third and final con of a compression lock is that, again, because it's only owned by Spyderco, only Spyderco can pull it off. Only Spyderco can manufacture it legally. And as a result, you do not have a knife below 100 US dollars for this locking mechanism, and that kind of puts it out of reach for a lot of people. With Gunzos and all that, you can get $20 knives, you can get $20, $30 knives with this locking mechanism, and then people can feel it out, use it out, see if it works for them, and then if they want to, maybe they can upgrade to a Hogue or a TRM or a Benchmade in the future. But yeah, you have this budget option. With Spyderco, this was the only knife that was below 100 US dollars where you can get a compression lock. Even then, it was at 91 US dollars, and with price hikes every year, it has gone up to 105 US dollars. So that's it, guys. One of my favorite locking mechanisms so far of my entire collection that I own. My current favorite locking mechanism is the compression lock. I am excited to try a button lock and a shark lock. I might love those more, but only time will tell. Now, there is another version of a compression lock on the Spyderco Smock where instead of needing to press this here, you actually have a little metal piece that's kind of stuck to here and then juts out at the other side. So it becomes more of a button compression lock. So you don't need to pinch it here, you need to pinch it here. I've never tried one of those as well, but mechanically it works the same. Okay guys, why don't you comment below why you love the compression lock, or if you have another lock that you love more than the compression lock, and let me know in the comments down below. Thanks guys, and as always, stay ready.